Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got an interesting knife. Yeah, kind of a preview. It's not really a review, and it's because this is a prototype. It's not available yet. This is the monochrome EDC Axiom. This was designed by a gentleman named Aiden of monochrome underscore EDC on Instagram. So I know you guys are going to want to know, like, when's the release date? Where can I buy it? It's a prototype. It's not available yet. I would imagine there'll be more information soon, but you'll need to follow him on Instagram or check out his YouTube channel for updates on this guy. To my knowledge, this is manufactured by Bestech. And the note here that I received from Tri-State EDC says that the target price is somewhere between $275 and $300. Keep in mind though, this is a prototype, and the reason that I'm saying I'm kind of reviewing the prototype, but all of this is subject to change. The appearance subtly, right? The materials, things like that. And so that I don't want people to get this idea that when this knife comes out that it's going to be exactly the same. So any criticisms I might have, they may not, it may be something that he's already aware of and plans to change. So any information that that's literally all the information that I have. Check out the monochrome underscore EDC Instagram for updates on this model. Thanks so much to Tri-State for sending this in for me to take a look at. You should definitely check out Tri-State EDC. You're probably already subscribed. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and measure this knife. This is definitely on the larger side, not XL, but definitely big, 8¼ inches. Not quite as big as I thought. I thought it'd be about 8.5. Blade length is 3.75 to the middle of the scale. Cutting edge is 3.35, just shy. It's actually just slightly over 3.25, thanks to a pretty large choke up area. Let's do some size comparisons. Any scales, any custom scales found in this section can be found down in the description under original GOAT and others. So up against the 8010 and the 8020.5, it actually has a similar blade presence to the 8010, given the length and height of the blade. The height and just the size of the blade really looks massive compared to the handle, which I much prefer over the opposite. When a blade looks too small for the handle, it looks a little weird, right? So this is obviously aesthetic preference, but it's something that I find interesting about the knife, and I think it gives it a little bit of character, because I feel like in the grand spectrum of the knife world, we don't see nearly as many knives that have a slimmer handle profile and a larger or taller blade, right? So I think that's kind of cool, and it gives it a little bit of character. It is definitely smaller and not quite as robust as the 8010 though. Definitely larger than the 8020.5. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Once again, it's definitely close to the size of the PM2, almost exactly the same overall length as the PM2. And actually, blade length is similar, more cutting edge, only slightly. But yeah, anyways, larger for sure than the Para 3. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. All right, how's the action on this guy? So this is apparently his first design. I think that's pretty cool, right? This is obviously designed by somebody who is a knife person, right? Has preferences that a lot of knife people have, including things like, I mean, like a lot of this is credit to Bestech, given they have made a knife or two, right? And probably when, people design things, they make little changes so that the design works. So some of it is credit there, but you still have to have a design, that works to a certain point from the beginning. So definitely credit to Aiden, because things like access to the lock bar are very good. The other thing that I like is when you're disengaging this knife with one hand, which is something that I do. That's not something everybody does. I like to disengage the frame lock with one hand and let the blade drop to my fingernail. Because of this big open area right here, there's a huge safety zone where nothing sharp is contacting your finger. So the blade can safely drop to your finger. You can move your hand out of the way, and then you can turn the blade to allow it to close. A couple of other things that I really like. The opening hole is completely and totally accessible. We have some sort of geometric shape creating the hole, but because of the angles of things, it actually works really well. There's a nice ledge right here that's not sharp. You can easily get the meat of your finger, which is what I prefer, or your entire thumbnail in there, which I honestly wouldn't do because you can push so much of your thumb in there that your thumb wants to go with it. I like to get the meat of my thumb right here and just kick it out. It just works perfectly. You can also easily do the reverse flick. This has a metallic sound to it that I find satisfying. Now, if you're a ninja and you're trying to infiltrate another, some sort of structure that houses a rival ninja clan, then you're obviously not going to want your knife to sound like a large coin being thrown into a pile of smaller coins. But that's what it sounds like to me. And as somebody who is not a ninja in any way, I don't mind if my knives are noisy. In fact, I really like the sound of this. Let's see if I can get this to capture, right? Part of capturing the sound properly is shutting the F up so that the audience can actually hear what I'm doing. So, ready? Can we hear that subtle ting? Ooh, got a nice little ting there. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know what the heck, why it makes that noise, but it's nice. I like it. It's really nice. There's a little tiny reverberation there. And it's clicky and metallic, and I like that, right? It's got almost like a movie sound effect that we get with knives. This has external stops, which that's something that I like, the lugs attached to the blade. You might be wondering, can you use those to deploy the blade? Not without being incredibly frustrated and honestly injuring your thumb. I wouldn't use them at all. It's not like the ZT-0562 or Hinder where there's stops and a means of deployment. And actually, the 0562, I think the Strider SNG or SMF is a better example. Those are definitely just stops and not meant to be used at all. So it's not like the XM18 where the studs are both meant to be used as deployment methods and they're also blade stops. They're just there to stop the blade, right? But I like that, and I'll go into more about that later. But the action's very good. It's nice and smooth. It runs on bearings, and the detent is nice, right? Very clicky. Yeah. It's all really nice, right? I mean, honestly, if it was released just like this, it feels like a finished product, right? I just have to assume there are going to be some things that change. So he's probably waiting on feedback, from all the lazy knife reviewers like me who haven't taken a look at it yet. Sorry, other knife reviewers, this is taking a while because it's been with me for a long time. So I'll take the take the blame for that one. That's my fault. Sorry about that. Thank you very much to Axiom, or not Axiom. Thanks very much to Monochrome EDC for being patient with me. Anyways, let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. Actually not as thick as I thought. It's almost exactly the same length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This is going to be a tall knife, with that tactical toucan blade for sure. We have a body length close that's very similar to the PM2, though it is slightly shorter. In terms of height, it is absolutely as tall or even taller at the highest peak there. Obviously, much larger than the PM2 and very nearly the same height. This is slightly taller again, but that's not really that big of a deal. I was aware, in and out of the pocket, I was aware that I was carrying a blade that was taller, but it's not so massive. And I'm like, geez, I got to be aware of this thing like every second that I'm carrying it. Let's go ahead and weigh it. So what are we looking at for materials? In this case, we are looking at titanium, obviously, and then the blade is apparently made of L-Max. That's another thing that's subject to change. I don't really mind if it's made of L-Max. L-Max is one of my more preferred steels. We've got, by my count, 17 billion knives on the market that are made of M390. So if he chooses to go M390, fine. There's only like 11 billion knives on the market that are made in L-Max, but I just like the balance of L-Max a little better. The other, popular steels right now, Magna Cut, right? S45EN. There's a number of things that he could, implement here, but whatever. It's fine and it's appropriate for the price range. But that's what we're looking at here. 4.48 ounces. No surprise there. I don't know if there's any, there actually is internal milling on the inside. That was one thing I was going to suggest if it's not there, but there is milling on the inside already. So on the heavier side, certainly by some people's standards, it wasn't enormously heavy for me. In fact, it's very similar, I think, to my Ritter Hogue, even without the titanium scales, because this guy comes in way heavier with the tie scales, but I think the Ritter Hogue with just the G10 scales has a similar weight. So not monstrous, but not a perfect balance by any means. The balance point on this actually is decent because there's so much blade. So that's probably why it doesn't feel... The more balanced a knife is, the less it feels like a heavy or awkward object, right? So balance, especially as we get heavier in weight and larger in size, I think is exponentially more important. So very good. Did you hear that ting? Oh, it's nice. It's real tingy. Let's go ahead and... How poetic. Did you hear the ting? It's very tingy. God. Hope you guys like my content. It's for the... it's for the intellectuals of the world, a word that I clearly just struggled around. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. What in blue blazes? This stupid bit. T8. Okay, I have to assume these are all T8. That's what they look like. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I got avocado on my thumbnail. I'm sure that's real attractive to look at. Sorry. Hey, sometimes I eat avocados, all right? They're good for you. Who cares? Yeah, this is all T8. Hey, Aiden, don't change that. That's perfect. Got a T8 screw right here for the clip. Now, this is nested, though. Take note of that. And it's also not a symmetrical clip. So even though there's a spot over there, it's not meant to be mounted over there for left-hand carry. But in terms of disassembly and ease of maintenance, it's top tier. That's what you want. As long as you have the right tools for the job, you should be good to go. Last thing to do is measure blade stock thickness, and then I'm going to give my quick thoughts on the design and where I feel like it should be priced at. Oh, no. No, it's not dead yet. Nope, it's not dead yet. The blade stock thickness is coming in at 153 thousandths or so. So on the thicker side. Okay, meat and potatoes time. Here's what I like about the design. Not only is it easy to manipulate, but there's something that is just kind of fun about holding a knife that's obviously meant, it's like for the human hand. It sounds silly to say, but we have nice subtle contouring here. We've got chamfered edges. We've got the standard grip right here, which is all right. The pocket clip, I can feel it. It's not sharp or intrusive in any way, but it's much more comfortable choked up, and this is clearly something that was meant to be emphasized here. The index finger position, or the choke up position is very much complemented by the thumb ramp back here, so that's nice. There's also a nice little area where you can rest your thumb here. And the blade is not so huge that you can't get your finger up there, but he's thought about this and put this little area right here for you to, that's what I have to assume the reason it's there, for you to lay your index finger and do your draw cuts. This is the type of blade that's, for me, somebody like me, I enjoy using it. It's large and it's over the top in terms of size, like for what I need it for, but I like to carry a larger blade. And I like that there's a bunch of obvious different positions for your hands that are well thought out, right? This isn't by accident. Those are all in place on purpose. The other cool thing is that this is aggressively hollow ground. Good Lord. Let me get a piece of paper here. Cutting a piece of paper doesn't prove anything, but a lot of times, you know, if you've got a thicker blade or a thinner blade or the final apex, the cutting apex isn't properly sharpened from the manufacturer, you can really feel it on something like paper. This is screaming sharp. Sorry, like caught something there at the edge, but it is screaming sharp and stupidly thin behind the edge. Yeah, really cool. I think people will like that. This is obviously not a knife you're going to take out and like pound through a piece of wood or something. I'm sure, you know, there's some paint drinkers out there who will still try to do that. Just kidding, but for real, don't do that. You still have a tip. That's nice. You can poke stuff if you need to, but you know, your long-term cutting tasks, I think they'll be fun. This is a knife that is pretty comfortable. It's still got a little bit of, you know, sudden change at the edge right here. These are areas that are not aggressive to the touch, but if you're not wearing gloves and you're processing a lot of material for a long period of time, that's where you're going to feel it eventually. But it's not a hard 90-degree angle. It's nothing, you know, crazy like that. But it's not quite the same as, you know, something like this, where the edge is, it's like contoured and then there's like a soft angle change right here. All right, for this, the pocket clip is what's going to do you in after a while. But this isn't bad. I just want to point that out. Blade, the machine satin finish, it's not my cup of tea, but to be honest with you, every prototype I've ever handled has had a machine satin finish on it, probably because it's the easiest to just do and get done and get out the door. I don't know, maybe. But I would like to see some people really like these finishes, and there's nothing wrong with them, but I'd like to see maybe a different option. Something that is tumbled or maybe coated or something like that. It's always nice to see a couple of different options. Not absolutely necessary. I just feel like, it's the profile of this knife is what's giving it personality. So if you plan to release this knife in one configuration and it's just plain, tumbled, not textured, and a belt satin finish, it ends up getting lost in a sea of other designs that are using the same basic finishes. And, for the people who plan to pick this up, if you like this combination, you're good to go, right? But sometimes it's hard to remember because everybody's prototype, everybody's design kind of looks the same. So it'd be cool to have a couple of different options, something that would make it stand out just a little bit. But yeah, the profile is good and plenty usable. I like the texturing and the jimping. I'd say leave that. This is a little bit sharp up here, which is a place, you can see there it's shaving off my fingernails. This is a place where you might put your thumb sometimes. It's a lot of people might not be bothered, but I don't know about you, but I don't like the feeling of those really sharp edges up here dragging against the dead skin of my fingers. So maybe consider a bevel or something up here, unless you want it that way specifically so that people are, who are going to strike flint off of it or whatever will actually be able to do that. I don't know. It just depends on the purpose of the design. Scales, they're fine. I wish they had something else, some characteristic here. Whether it doesn't have to be a texture pattern, but maybe a spot in the blade where there's something else going on. But just plain, contoured, tumble tie. It works. It's utilitarian. And if that was the goal, then mission accomplished. Or ergonomic. When I say utilitarian, I mean in terms of ergonomics, right? It's good. But from a design, okay. From super nitpicky Metal Complex's perspective, who likes to see personality and things brought out, I think the blade, that's a lot of personality in the blade. Not necessarily the only blade that's ever looked like this, but there's a lot of personality in the blade. I just kind of want the handle profile, which by itself is very, very basic. Something else going on here, some identifiers, it would be kind of cool. But if not, it's a lot of that is personal preference. So it's perfectly okay if that's not the goal. There's no lanyard hole, which I don't really care about. If you love lanyards, you don't really have an option. Plain backspacer, that's fine. Doesn't need to be anything special, but there's definitely room for a little bit of personality there if the designer wants to do it. Pocket clip is definitely meant for right-handed tip-up only. A lot of people will say, there's a screw right there, you can flip it over. Number one, this is a contoured surface. Number two, the pocket clip is clearly nested into the titanium over here, which is necessary when you're only using one screw because otherwise the pocket clip flips around. So if you try to flip this over, it's not going to fit. It's only going to have one screw. It's going to flop around and it's going to be angled the wrong way for the design. So no, it's not meant for lefties. Consider a filler tab or something so that lefties can also enjoy this because as a right-handed person, I can actually manipulate this knife fairly easily. So lefties, 10% of your potential buyers who are left-handed might appreciate that option right there. Steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel stop. That's kind of par for the course. I love the fact that we have external stops, or it doesn't have to be external, but two lugs that are attached to the blade. Sorry, a little bit of Porky Pig coming out today. We are bracing on both sides of the frame instead of a single point of contact, much like something like the bug out. It's just got a single point of contact. We've got 2 points of contact here. In my experience, this is great. I used to say, it mitigates pressure away from the pivot in an awkward cut, which is partially true. But most of the time, it just helps the blade stay solid on lockout and gives you, in my experience, a greater range for adjusting the pivot to the action or the smoothness that you want it to be. It stays solid, which it absolutely is because we have points of contact on both sides of the frame. Right. Now, knife scholars will point out that when a blade is properly manufactured or handcrafted, that you don't need 2 points of contact in order for that to be the case. Fine. But this one does, and it helps with that a little bit, which is good. I think there's no problem, especially when the lugs are not in the way. So that's great. No lock stick, no double clutch, No pivot lash. Extremely smooth here. Credit to Bestech for their manufacturing process. Very good. Very nice detent. Just really, really great there. And we've got perfect centering with no detent lash. So it's cool. If the target price is, number one, obviously make sure your heat treat's correct. If the target price is $275 to $300, it's cool. But I just, like, personally, and you don't have to listen to me. You can go, thanks for reviewing it, Metal Complex, but you can kick rocks. I don't care about your preferences. That's perfectly fine. I don't make the rules. My suggestion would be, at that price point, personally, I like to see a little bit more going on. Whether it be blade finish options, anodizing, different areas of the handle that are milled in a way that's kind of fun to look at or fun to feel without, sacrificing any utility. And there's lots of different ways to do that. I know Bestech is plenty capable because I've seen them create things like this at this exact price point. So if your goal was to release something that's very plain in the handle and utilitarian, and all the personality is here in the blade, and your preferences are to release a blade with a belt satin finish and a tumbled handle finish, that's just what you like and that's what you want to release, I think that's perfectly fine. But there's a lot of competition at $275 to $300. So if, to make the thing stand out, adding some personality, adding some more designy stuff in here is going to help people not only remember it, but be motivated to pick it up and use it. Because the truth is, it actually makes her a pretty good user. And that hollow grind is really aggressive. It's fun. This is the type of knife that would be fun to whip out, especially that little, I don't know what you did there. I don't know what Bestech did to make that noise, but it's nice, right? So those are my honest thoughts on the prototype. Again, there's a distinct possibility that he's like, yeah, I already have all of that planned, and thank you for that, but I already knew what to do. In which case, nice, good deal. Looking forward to the release. I don't know when it will be. I think one of the latest comments on his Instagram was he planned to release it before the end of 2023, but it got delayed. So I'm assuming it's still delayed. It'll be nice to kind of watch and pay attention and see when this is going to release, but would be more than happy to review the final product. That's going to be it from me today. Thanks again, of course, to monochrome_EDC for letting me check out the Axiom, and thanks to Tri-State for sending it along. This will go to whoever is in line next. Sorry you had to wait over a month or maybe over a couple of months to get it. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.